News broke out yesterday that Chelsea had hijacked the deal for Morgan Rogers, and honestly, I was very happy with how some Arsenal fans reacted. Although some were upset, I totally understand because it felt like Chelsea were on top of us in the food chain. I totally understand that. But for me, like I made mention in one of my my short videos, I said that paying that kind of money for Morgan Rogers was astronomical. It was crazy for me. I did not think Arsenal were willing to pay more than £100 million. And even the £100 million that was mentioned, I felt was too much for Morgan Rogers. Don't get me wrong, he's a fine player, he's a very good player. On his day, he can produce magic, but that is the thing. On his day, he does not do it consistently enough for me. I don't see him as a player that can, take Arsenal to a different dimension, if you get what I mean, especially since we were getting him to be our left wing, option. He's a good player. He can score goals. He can create assists. He can, do so many things. But I just feel like in that position, I felt Arsenal had, similar players in that situation. I think Eze fits into that kind of profile. He's not an out winger. He's more of, a midfielder that can play from the wings. You get. So I was really happy with the way some Arsenal fans reacted. I felt, some Arsenal fans, understood that paying that kind of money for Morgan Rogers and for what he's going to bring to the table. And this is someone that we are not guaranteed is going to be able to bench Martinelli, because you look at the work rate, the way Martinelli plays, what he adds to the team, except the goals and all that. I don't think he really can offer us more of or more than what Martinelli can offer. Now that begs the question: who do we get? Right? Who is that player that we can bring into that position that would really automatically level up that position? Because we can all agree that we have a world-class player in the right wing position in Bukayo Saka. I get last season it was not really up to his best, to the normal standard we hold Bukayo Saka to. He did not perform to that level, partly because of the injuries and partly because of the way team set up against Arsenal last season and him not being able to string in 5 to 6 consecutive performances. So I think we need to bring someone in that level that can like raise the level to at least, if not 100% what Saka gives us, I think 70% of what Saka gives us in the right wing. And there are stories about Bakola. Like I said, to me, I don't think Bakola is really a big upgrade on Martinelli. We saw how Martinelli performed at the World Cup. I think we have to consider so many factors when it comes to upgrading that position, right? How do teams set up against Arsenal? Is there going to be enough space for a player like Bakola to really thrive? Because we look at Martinelli, the 2022-2023 Martinelli is not what we saw in the last 2 seasons, partly because of how teams set up against Arsenal. Like in the previous season, there was enough space for players like that to thrive on. You have enough space to take on the ball, running behind and all that. But with the way team set up against Arsenal, we know that space is not going to be available. Right? That's why we have to factor stuff like that into consideration. I think that is why Arsenal really preferred Morgan Rogers, because he's someone that is good with the ball to fit. So I think, but I still believe he was not an out and out left winger. I still believe he's not the quality we need. Now, there have been stories that Madrid are really looking at bringing in Olise, like from Bayern Munich. Now, if Madrid are able to do that, I think that opens up opportunity for either Vinicius Junior or Rodrigo to be sold, preferably Vinicius Junior. And that, for me, is a player I think walks into this Arsenal team and automatically our ceiling is higher, because like we know, Vinicius Junior he thrives when there's space ahead of him. He thrives with the ball to fit. He thrives when there's not much space ahead of him, like in the World Cup, right? We see how he was able to create space for himself. He has that close control, that close dribbling. So I believe a player like that would really change that left wing position. And Arsenal not going into a tug of war with Chelsea for Morgan Rogers shows me that, or proves to me that, we have something better in package. We have something better in store for the fans. And I hope it is going to be a player that will really raise the ceiling in that left wing position.